Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rena 9, and we begin this hour in Washington, where lawmakers on Capitol Hill are scrambling to pass a spending deal today. As the clock ticks down, Congress needs to pass a spending deal before midnight to avoid a government shutdown. In the Senate, lawmakers are moving forward with a bipartisan plan that keeps the government running for 6 weeks. It also includes $165 billion in defense spending and $131 billion for domestic programs over the next 2 years. But it doesn't address immigration. For that reason, the plan's getting pushed back in the House, where Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi says that she will vote no on the deal. She spoke on the House floor for 8 hours yesterday. Meanwhile, the White House is struggling with the fallout from the resignation of White House Staff Secretary Rob Porter. Two of his ex-wives have come forward with allegations of domestic abuse. Porter denies the allegations. Yesterday, Chief of Staff John Kelly released a statement calling Porter a man of true integrity and honor. Later, he released a news statement saying he was shocked by the new allegations, but he went on to say that he stands by his previous comments. Gabe Debenedetti is a political reporter for Politico. He joins us now. I want to start with the accusations against Rob Porter, these domestic abuse accusations. Does it raise any flags for the White House?
Well, absolutely. Obviously, these are extremely serious accusations. But what is the White House is really struggling with right now is that we have John Kelly was for a while urging Porter to keep a stiff upper lip and keep trying to fight these accusations. And there's a lot of reporting that the White House knew about this, that it came up during the FBI background check of Porter last year, and that they essentially kept him on. So this is obviously a problem for them.
You know, the messaging, Gabe, has been strange because at one point, as I mentioned, Kelly releases a statement and then sort of steps back from that, saying he was shocked. What's up with the mixed messaging here?
I mean, it's clear that there's been a huge scramble behind closed doors at the White House to try and figure out how much of a problem this is for them and how to get rid of Porter if they have to. He does have a lot of allies within the White House, and a lot of people think that, well, these are false accusations. As he says, they've clearly been struggling to try and have a forward-looking message on this, and it's pretty clear that now that he said, forget it, I'm stepping aside, that they're going to try and move aside as quickly as possible. That's why you saw Kelly last night say, thank you for your service, on to the next one.
Yeah. Is it strange or odd for somebody to be in the White House and not get that high-level security clearance?
Absolutely. The reason that he didn't get that security clearance, it appears, is because of these accusations that the FBI had found out about during his background check. For someone like that to be essentially a gatekeeper to the president and not have a permanent security clearance is extremely odd. It's not something that ever happens. You saw a lot of alums of previous White Houses, including the Bush White House, piping up yesterday, sort of saying, hang on, this guy only had temporary clearance for over a year, and yet he was the one who was handling the information flow. Raises serious questions.
I want to turn now to the potential government shutdown over this government funding. The deadline is just in a few hours later tonight. So the House is having difficulty with this, the conservative caucus as well. Where are we on this right now?
Well, it looks like it's going to be just fine in the Senate. On the House, though, as you said, where there's a real split is within both parties. There's an element of the conservative groups and the Republicans that are essentially saying, no way, we're not going to raise spending like this, so you better find support somewhere else. And that's put a big onus on House Democrats. You had Nancy Pelosi yesterday saying, we're not going to support this because it does not have any sort of fix for DACA, as was agreed on previously. But there are a lot of House Democrats who essentially say, we should fight for DACA, but now is not the time to do it. This is not the place to do it.
You know, is it strange, though, Gabe? Nancy Pelosi is the woman who whips those votes in, and she's saying, no, I'm not going to vote on it, but not really getting those votes to vote no?
Yeah, absolutely. And, she went up and talked yesterday for 8 hours in the longest floor speech the House has ever seen in its history, but she's not actively stopping House members from going forward here. So what a lot of people are saying is basically this was a political maneuver to signal to the base, to signal to the Democratic Party, where we stand here is pro-DACA. We want to find a fix, but we have to keep the government open.
On immigration, I want to play you a soundbite from what House Speaker Paul Ryan had to say on this issue.
I know that there is a real commitment to solving the DACA challenge in both political parties. That's a commitment that I share. To anyone who doubts my intention to solve this problem and bring up a DACA and immigration reform bill, do not. We will bring a solution to the floor, one that the president will sign. We must pass this budget agreement first, though, so that we can get on to that. So please know that we are committed to getting this done.
Something that the president would like, Gabe. Is there anything right now circulating that the president would sign off on?
The question, of course, there are plenty of things that the president would sign off on. The question is if they'll get any Democratic support for any of that. This is the fundamental problem here. Democrats say in order to reopen, to have a long-term government fix, we need to deal with DACA. Republicans are saying, let's deal with the government first with the spending, and then we'll deal with DACA. But there's a serious discussion here. There's a big disconnect between what they're actually talking about. Ryan is essentially saying, in order for us to talk about DACA, we have to talk about something like President Trump's wall. A lot of Democrats are saying that's a total non-starter. So they're not really talking about the same thing here.
So when you turn to the Senate side, they reached a budget deal. What's in it for both sides? What are the pros and cons here?
Well, Democrats basically just don't want to keep talking about a shutdown. They realize that they didn't come out very well in the last one, and they just want to be able to move on and talk about how they are the party of governing. Republicans here are pretty happy to see that there is increased military spending, and they're basically able to say, okay, let's talk about this stuff in 2 years. What they don't like, since they're the party in the majority, is the fact that we're going to have to talk about shutdowns every 2 weeks. This is not how D.C. is supposed to work, and they know that that's not good for them.
But this plan will add increasingly to the deficit. It kind of negates what the president wanted to achieve. What do you make of that?
Well, this is a huge moment politically for the modern Republican movement, because if you remember during the Obama years, constantly Republicans were talking about ballooning the deficit and what an enormous problem it was. And now a lot of them are saying, oh, we're not worried about that right now. Yeah. That is actually a huge problem for a lot of House Republicans. And those are the ones who are saying, I can't believe we're going down this road. But a lot of Senate Republicans are essentially saying more important things are going on here.
Hey, there is some positive news for the president. I want to get to some of these poll numbers from Quinnipiac. Good news. American voters approve of Trump's handling of the economy, 51 to 43%. That's actually the highest score of any category. He's still negative overall approval. A bit of optimism, it seems, in the economy. What do you make of these numbers?
Yeah, well, we should start this off with the caveat that it is true that he is still a historically unpopular president, but there's absolutely no doubt that recently he's seen a little bit of an uptick. This is largely based on consumers feeling confident about the shape of the economy. They like the tax cut. They like the way that Republicans have been selling it, and they feel like they have a little bit more money in their pockets. All of that said, we'll see what actually happens, as the economy develops over the next few months, and as some of the more provisions, some of the other provisions of the tax cut actually set in, because that has not really happened yet.
Gabe Debenedetti, great to have you on set, Gabe.
Thank you.